My wife and I had a free weekend. We decided we wanted to go do some canoe camping. Nice thing about camping with a canoe, you can go to some pretty popular places and still get away from the crowds. Pulled out my maps, and after a little bit, we sailed on a mountain lake that we wanted to go explore. It was pretty toasty down in the valleys, but once you got up into the mountains, the weather was just about perfect. It was towards the end of the day, so we had to hustle a little bit to get to camp. Figured it'd take us about an hour or so to paddle to where we wanted to get to. The scenery was so beautiful, it didn't even really seem like work. There was a pair of nesting ospreys that made sure we just kept on paddling. It was really awesome to watch them.
Got like a mini Stonehenge off to our left. Looks like some of the rocks fell down, but kind of just the way they're stacked. Looks a little bit like a Stonehenge. The canyon goes a long ways back.
We weren't sure if there'd even be a camping site. According to the map, this was the only part of the lake that wasn't nearly straight up and down, so we decided to give it a shot.
Looks like we found a good campsite. Clearly it's been used before, but I actually prefer to use old campsites.
One of the great things about camping with my wife is she notices things that I take for granted. I've walked past 100 of these rocks and never even took the time to notice, but they are pretty cool. It was a pretty long walk from where we beached the canoe till we hit the campsite. But it pretty well meant that we had this end of the lake all to ourselves. With dark coming on fast, the first order of business was to get the tent up. This tent sets up pretty easy, so it went really quick. Once we got the tent up, next order of business was to get some water. We're going to need that for dinner. All we had left now was to get the bear bag up, get the fire going, and get some dinner cooking. Everything was pretty wet, so it took me a lot longer than it should have to get the fire going, but we managed to get her going pretty nice. For dinner, we had some freeze-dried meals that we made ourselves. First time we were checking these out. It's just like a mountain house or any other backpacking meal. Add a certain amount of water, let it sit for a little bit, and then enjoy. The one thing we did figure out, it's probably a good idea to stir them once you add the water. Did come across a few crunchy spots, but not too bad, especially for doing it ourselves.
Gonna be delicious.
Smells delicious.
And it's gonna rain. Happy day. Actually, I'm super glad that it held off till now.
It's
So,
Ended up eating in our tent, which isn't a great idea. Neither one of us sleep on the ground as well as we used to, so my wife decided to get a couple extra hours. I decided to go fishing. Seemed like a perfect arrangement. My fishing kit's pretty simple. Box flies, a little bit of floatant, a little bit of weight in case I decide to fish nymphs, and some forceps. That's about all you need up here. Oh, and a little bit of tippet. There was pretty good fishing action. I had something else in mind for breakfast, so I let them all go. But it was a good time. I managed to catch a rainbow, a tiger, and a brookie. Not too bad catching 3 species of fish out of one lake. They were actually a little bigger than I'd anticipated, so that was an extra bonus. Once I got tired of fishing in the lake, I decided to go fish the stream for a little bit. There'd been a forest fire through the area a couple years ago. It caused a lot of death and destruction, but as you can see, a lot of new regrowth as well. As I expected, the fish in the stream weren't nearly the size of the ones in the lake. I didn't bother to bring a pair of waders, so I was just fishing from shore. That made fishing the stream a little bit more difficult. Something I'll never pass up is some wild raspberries. I think they were growing really well because of the forest fire. After a half hour or so of fishing, I came across a gauging station for the river. Decided it was time to head back, cook some breakfast. On the way back, I bumped a cow elk out of her bed. She took off, but not too fast. It was really interesting to watch her move out. She zigzagged way more than I'd ever seen any other elk do. Came across her tracks. She was definitely moving with a sense of purpose. Then I bumped a doe not too far from camp. She sat there and watched me for a second. I came across her fawns not too long after that, but didn't get any good footage. For breakfast, we had one of my favorites, omelets in a bag. They're pretty simple, and I really like them. I have another video where I explain how to make them exactly, but this isn't how you're supposed to do it.
Don't do that.
At least my wife's was intact. Out here, dirt's just a little extra flavoring. I was really surprised with how clean the camp was, but we did find a few extra pieces of trash to take out with us. About halfway to the canoe, the heavens opened up and the rain came down. I'd originally planned on fishing out of the canoe for a while, but we really felt the need to move with a sense of purpose. It was coming down really hard. Fortunately, although it was raining a lot, there wasn't a lot of wind, so we didn't have to worry about waves. Although we were taking on plenty of water from the rain. After about a half hour or so, the raining stopped. Even though she was cold and wet, my wife suggested I try fishing for a little while, so I didn't tell her no. Not the biggest fish of the day, but the first one I've ever caught out of my canoe. Good times. With the rain done, it was getting pretty toasty. Perfect time to head back to the truck and call it a day. It was a great time, and we had a pretty remote camping trip in a fairly popular place. Gonna have to do that again.